Bucket of balls. Bucket of balls. I got
Bucket of balls. Great song. Great lead in to U.S. Open Week here at Fantasy Golf TV with Jeff Diehl. Thanks for joining us, folks. I appreciate it. I'm solo in the studio today, but on the line we have Brian Steffen, the golf monger himself. Brian, you there?
I'm here, buddy. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for crashing the party on my show a little earlier today.
Yeah, I kind of lucked out. I walked in the studio, and you were live. I figured, let me chime in, and Jeff let me sit in for a couple seconds, so I appreciate that. You do a great job, and I know everybody's doing U.S. Open Week previews, and your show is wonderful, and we've got the same thing here on my show. We're going to do some U.S. Open previews for our Fantasy Golf League. But you know what I always say, you need to look back before you can move forward. And obviously some kudos goes out to you, Brian, for doing well and leapfrogging me in our league completely. Did very well this week.
Did I have a good week?
You did. You had a very good week.
I did. I was still disappointed I didn't win.
And you didn't. And who? Yeah, there was Bill's boys won. The name of the team was
all the way back in 19th place for crying out loud.
Yeah, like it's not going to help him for this segment. He's done.
He's won twice.
He has. He did.
He's still in 19th.
And he's still in 19th place. He had a couple of really bad weeks, which I did. In fact, I tweeted something after Thursday's round for the St. Jude, the FedEx St. Jude Classic, and I. I just said that. I tweeted something that my team just imploded with my picks. It was that bad. But I actually came back. I wound up with 131 points for the week, which, is fairly respectable. I stayed in 7th place for the segment. But you did really well. I
misplayed. One day hurt me. I could have done a little better. I think I would have got the points. Not by much. I might have squeaked out. I misplayed one guy one day.
Well, I had 4 guys miss the cut, and you had 2 guys miss the cut. That always hurts. That's taking.
I had 2, but
you had 2 guys miss the cut. But you had Harris English. He got you a total of 36 points. But Phil Mickelson, I had Phil too. He got you 57. You started him for 4 straight days.
Yes.
I missed that first day. So and that as well as Billy Horschel, who came in 8th place. So that was really strong for you.
I started Billy all 4 days. That's the one day I had Patrick Rogers. I could have played him the first day. He scored better than Billy did.
Right.
Could have helped me out a little bit.
And kudos to Shan. I had Shan on my show last week, and she threw out the name Camellia Villegas, and and I looked at her. I said, huh?
Horse for the course.
But
don't let her get too excited. I told her about him.
Well, but I mean, she didn't do very well this week either. But she did mention that name, and I didn't put him on my team, and he got you 46 points. So that was a good strong pick for you as well. So congratulations. Yep. Although you didn't win the weekly honors, and I'm not sending you a check this week. I'm sending somebody else a check. But
I'm climbing the ladder for the season, though.
I mean, we've got 2 weeks left, and obviously coming up is the U.S. Open. And remember, in our league there's 12 weeks. So with that said, we're in week for the whole year. We're in week 23 right now, which is it's only 2 weeks left for the segment.
I know. I've climbed up to 3rd place. I got to have a big week this week.
You're doing really good. You really are. And now that's the one league we're in. The other league you're leading, the TGD Radio TV League, the one that we don't have so many people in, but a lot of the staff here at the golfdirector.com and some of our friends and family. But now you're leading that one, which you're doing really good. And
I've won 4 times in that one. You're not cutting checks in that league though, so it doesn't.
We don't.
Good.
I don't cut checks in that one. No. I'm right behind you in 2nd place on that. I fell back in the big league that we're in, the money league for, the points league, should I say, for 7. I'm in 7th place now. So there was a lot of movement, but some of the guys stayed the same. It was a tough week, I think. Everybody's preparing for the Open. Who do you pick? Even Phil. Phil played very well, but in my back of my mind, I'm thinking Phil's going to be playing shots on Chambers Bay when he's playing in Tennessee, just in his mind of trying to prepare for this upcoming Open. So I didn't take too credence to him, although I had him on my team. I didn't think he'd do so well.
He always plays. He likes Southwind. He likes that course.
Yeah.
He always plays there before the Open. He likes it. So,
well, folks, you can tweet us, Twitter at Fantasy Golf TV. Folks, you can get a hold of us, facebook.com/fantasygolftv, and check us out at fantasygolftv.com, through the golfdirector.com. Let's move forward to Chambers Bay, the U.S. Open Championship. We talked a little bit about your show, and we went into some fantasy because fantasy is getting so popular. But I mentioned something about, I always look at the golf course. Let's look at the golf course, the venue, and then who plays well at the venue, whether they're going to put them on your team or not. So the golf course, completely opposite from last year's Pinehurst, right? I mean, talk about from one green complexes to another. Last year at Pinehurst, they were it's like trying to land a ball on top of your car and making it stop. Well, this is the other way. It's to turn the ball upside down and try to filter it down from the edges and filters in, right? Yes.
I watched earlier today, they were showing, I was at a local sports bar for lunch today, and that has great specials on Tuesdays. So I was watching.
Now I'm itching where you're going, but go ahead.
That Golf Channel. No, I wasn't drinking beer. It had the Golf Channel on and showing some practice round stuff. And I watched Ricky Fowler hit a shot. I wish I could remember what hole he was on. It was basically looked like a line drive into the green. Landed 20 yards in front of the green. Rolled screaming past the stick. Looked like it was going to go 40 yards over the green. Stopped at the back of the green because it was uphill, and then rolled and ended up 10 feet short of the flag.
Unbelievable.
Rolled back.
Unbelievable.
I made this comment before you jumped on the air, I believe, on my show earlier, that you're going to see some shots at Chambers Bay like we're used to seeing in the Open Championship.
I agree.
Because it is kind of link style, but it's not flat. It's
totally agree.
A lot of elevation changes.
You have to be inventive. The word, I read a lot of blogs, and especially players will post stuff on Twitter now, and the phrase is different. I mean, a lot of people using the word different. It's a little different out here. They come off of a practice round, and it's different. But we talked about it earlier too. If you don't embrace it, if you fight it, I don't put them on your team. That's for sure. Look for those guys that are going to go on your team that are embracing this type of venue. It's definitely different.
It is, and it's weird because number 1 and number 18 can be played as both a par 4 and a par 5, and they've said they're going to change it up during the week.
That's definitely. I'm really looking forward to that, and I really am. I think number 1, the starting hole is key. Not just when I play, if I get off to a good start, just like everybody, you get off to a good start, you feel good, you start to loosen the grip a little bit. That number 1, as it plays as a par 4, I think the guys who can figure that out, you're going to have to hit a long iron in. If you miss that green 10 yards to the left, you're going to be down a 50-foot swale. I mean, it's 2 stories down. Think about that. So,
and it's not short either because it's as a par 4, it's 490.
Yeah.
As a par
496 par 4, and
as a par 5, they can stretch it all the way to 600 yards.
Right, they're going to play it 598. You're right, and so that's where let's lay up and let's hit the wedge in. Let's get a little spin on where we need to go on that green. So to hit those long 4 irons in or 3 irons, depending upon where you are on the golf course, what you decide to do on the tee to hit your fairway, that's important. Some guys might try to nut it out there and go for it to try and get that shorter iron in when it's a par 4. It really is going to lend well to how this tournament sets up. Hole number 1, I think, is really important for players. Some players.
Well, and I always like to look at the it's U.S. Open, so you got to look and see where's the par 4 that they can make drivable.
Right.
Because they tend to like to do that sometimes
they do.
Too, and that's number 12. The tees can range anywhere from 281 to 311.
I'm looking. Michael,
it's an uphill hole. So guys will either shoot, and they're not calling for a lot of wind, so I don't think that'll be a factor. But some guys will hit 3 woods. Some guys might try to lay off a driver a little bit. Some guys might hit hybrids. Some guys will lay up. I mean, because it's narrow and huge bunker front left.
I think there's, I don't know. It's a U.S. Open. Obviously, people are going to go in there with a little anxiety. And then to get through that first hole is important. How they're going to structure that, I know, like you said, hole 1, hole 18, par 4, par 5. So they're going to even off. It'll always be a par 70 every day. So I'm curious. I heard this extended forecast. You always want to look at weather at a Chambers Bay type course that's wide open. But apparently there's not going to be much of a factor, they said. There's not going to be much wind. They're not calling for anything crazy. So what I like is guys like Dustin and J.B. Holmes can let it loose and try to hit those fairways. You know, hole number 1 is a perfect example where if you play it as a par 4, there's a generous landing area. If you play it as a par 5, you got to figure out, okay, it's lengthened, but it's not so generous where you're going to land it. So I think it's very important when you set your teams. Unfortunately, there's no history here. You know, Shan likes to look back 2 years, and there's not much of a history except for the 2010 Amateur Championship. You can look at that history. Guys like Jordan Spieth played it.
And you can throw that out the window.
Well, you can, except Jordan Spieth played as a U.S. amateur.
Jordan Spieth played in it.
Yes.
So
is he going on your team?
They're both on my team. And not because they both played there, because of the way they're playing currently.
They are. They're playing really well.
Here's another interesting. Hole number 15 is a par 3. Okay. Into the water. Gorgeous shot on the background, according to the photo here on the USGA website. They have tees. It can play anywhere from 123 to 246 yards.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So as a player, you have to prepare. You know, number 17, this course finishes 3, 4, 3, and then either 4 or 5, depending on how they want to set it up. And let me tell you, I'll bet you that Sunday, 1 is playing as a par 4 and 18 is playing as a par 5.
Wow. Well, all right. I mentioned one name earlier on your show, and you just laughed. Do you think Tiger Woods has a shot at it?
No.
Not a chance.
No. Let's move on.
Man. I've been thinking about this, and I think he might be me on my bench. I need to see how he gets to the first day. Listen, he's hitting it all over the planet. So
you're wasting a guy you could use later for points in the week if you put him on your bench just to see how he does. So let me tell you how he's going to do. He's going to shoot 76 on the first day.
All right, maybe a little side bets in action here.
I'm in. Whatever you name it,
we'll talk. We'll talk off the air on that.
Not going to do anything.
Okay, so all right, so Tiger's out. But although, listen, I think this is a venue that you can hit it off the planet and still have a shot to the green, right? Unless you're in a high fescue somewhere.
Go ahead.
But there's nothing blocking. He's not hitting into trees anymore.
Go ahead and take him.
Okay. Just throwing that out there.
No, but he's going to be hitting out of grass up to his hips. He's not going to be able to do anything because he can't keep the ball on the fairway.
No. He misses rough. He goes into the other fairways these days. That's how bad he's missing. That's what I'm saying.
No, it's not going to. It's not going to work.
All right, so let's get into it. I have my own little list here, and there's favorites lists everywhere. But you know, the theory behind mine is I like guys that can hit it, that can kind of bunt it up onto a green and kind of use those contours. So who are we talking about? On your show, as soon as I got on your show, there was a name you were talking about called Boomer. Or Bubba, and but you said no way, don't put him on your team. But here's a guy that can get very, very creative, and I kind of like him for this venue only because he can get creative and work it. There's nobody on tour that works it more than him.
And I could be 100% wrong if he gets out there on Thursday or in the practice rounds, and he's having some success getting creative.
Okay. And again, I'm trying to help the folks out there in fantasy golf world, okay?
The reason for my hesitation is we all know Bubba's moody. And if he gets out there on Thursday or even in the practice rounds and he's trying some things and they're not working, he's done because it gets in his head and he's going to just do nothing but whine and complain. So he's done.
Totally agree with you. Although I think his second kid has kind of calmed him down a little bit. I wish he played more, but he's definitely become a family man, and I'd like to see more golf from him. But he's as a family man myself, he's got his priorities where he needs to be. So
Right.
I appreciate that. I wanted the folks to just get a couple of expert opinions. I think he can work it, and he can, especially his approach shots, he can really use those contours leading into the green, the approaches around the green, and then use those green contours to help get filtered to the hole. So I think he's a guy that we should consider, although there's no history, and it really hurts. Number one on my list, and if you can go through a bunch of lists, go on all the venues, go do your research. Bubba's not on any top 10 list. He's just not there. But I think people should consider him. Rory's on everybody's list. The odds, Vegas odds, these I took from yesterday's Vegas site. Rory's at 7-1. Jordan Spieth is at 8-1. And then Dustin Johnson was third at 16-1. What are your thoughts on those three players right there?
Well, let me tell you, I like Rory and Dustin, or Rory and Jordan for sure. They're both playing very well, 1 and 2 in the world, and you'd be crazy not to think that at a venue like this, where since nobody has really any advantage because it suits their game or whatever, it all comes down to skill. And who's more skilled than those two guys right now?
Yeah, I agree. Although,
so,
let me just chime in with Jordan. It's incredibly tough to win back-to-back majors.
It is.
If anybody's game suits the approach to winning a second major in a row, I think it's Jordan, except for this venue. It bothers me a little bit.
Well, here's the thing. If you're talking fantasy, I think it's okay to pick him if you haven't used him too much, because he's going to have good rounds. Is he going to put together 4 and win back-to-back? To be honest with you, I don't think he's going to either.
Right.
But is he going? I mean, he's in the B group, so you have 4 guys. So that's the key, in my opinion, if you're going to pick him. You can play him for a day or two. You just got to hope you pick the right day.
Right. And then you haven't mentioned Dustin. What do you think about Dustin? Well, we're running out of a little time. I'm looking at the clock here, and I want to make sure we get as much information out to the folks as possible.
Dustin was my preseason pick. His game's been a little off lately, so it makes me a little nervous.
Especially after he left after 9 holes in Tennessee last week. I mean, that was I was very disappointed in that. Just as there's a relationship with Dustin at our club in Myrtle Beach, and
right.
And I hope everything's okay. He said he wasn't feeling good, so he started around bogey, and then he parred out. But after 9 holes, he walked off and withdrew.
I think if the U.S. Open wasn't the next week, he might have continued to play. Is probably my take. He said he wasn't feeling well. I got a feeling that he's like, no sense. I don't feel it. This is a tough track. I'm not starting out 3 over. It's going to be a tough fight all week, and I got to get ready for next week. So, I don't think I want to play.
Is he going on your team?
He was, then he wasn't. He was, then he wasn't.
Okay. I'm looking forward to Thursday morning when the first ball's in the air. I'm going to look at your team.
Currently, he's not. But that doesn't mean anything by the time the first. And we got some extra time this Thursday being on the West Coast.
Yes.
You don't have to have your team set till 10 o'clock. So you got. I got Rory, and Justin Rose for sure. Phil Mickelson for sure. He's playing really well. He's got 3 top 5s in the last 5 starts. Played really well last week. Now you made the comment you didn't think that he would play well at Southwind because you figured he would be playing shots that he would need at Chambers Bay.
Well, I thought his mind could have been all right,
and that's what Phil does. But
he does.
I've been to Southwind. I lived in Memphis for a couple of years, if you remember, and I've been to that golf course. I've walked it. It's not flat. You would think it would be being out there in Western Tennessee, but it's not. And so some of the shots that he thought he might need to try to play at Chambers Bay, as far as hitting uphill, downhill, so on and so forth, the shapes he could use at Southwind as well. And he's striking the ball well. He's confident. He's putting it. And here's the thing. Phil is a feel putter, right? And he always puts too much break in or whatever and not enough break. He's not going to have to worry about that at Chambers Bay. So the little wiggle that you see from Phil every once in a while in the Open when he's got that 4-footer, and he overreads it and it doesn't break, or he underreads it and it breaks more than he thinks it is, and he's got that befuddled look on his face, You're not going to have any of that. It's going to be jam in the jar.
Right.
So I think
jam in the jar. I like that.
As much as we talked about on my show that Hideki Matsuyama, who's a terrible putter as far as PGA Tour standards go, for top flight players, the way he strikes the ball, the poor greens, the greens will help him because you don't have to be as precise a putter. I think it helps Phil for the same reasons, but in a different way, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yes, it does.
And for that reason, both those guys are on my team.
All right, here's a name that nobody's talking about. What about Jimmy Walker? Right now, Vegas has got him at 33-1. Do you like Jimmy at all for this venue?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't.
Okay. And
I like Jimmy in the month of January, and I like him at the end of the year. I don't like him at all in the summer.
Yeah, something. Well, he's a Texas player, though. I mean, I can't figure out why he doesn't play well in the summer, but
he didn't even play well in Texas.
You know what I think it is?
He didn't play well in Texas.
Well, he plays way too much early on. I think he's got to stretch out his schedule a little bit. So I agree with you there. A guy I really like right now is nobody's off. He's off everybody's radar. He's at 40-1 Vegas odds right now. Is Matt Kuchar. I think he's kind of overdue to win a major. And if ever he's going to win one, it's going to happen sooner rather than later. So I really like Matt Kuchar this week.
I like Ryan Moore.
Yeah, that's the hometown favorite there. I agree with you there.
He's a ball striker as well. I like it. And out of the A list, you talk about someone else to take that a lot of people they're starting to talk about. I was talking about him a few weeks ago. No one else really was, and he's on my team as of now, and I don't foresee me changing it, is Brooks Koepka.
Yeah, he was way down. I was looking at the odds. He was so far down the list on odds. I thought, what is Vegas seeing him? Being a big NFL guy in fantasy football, I would never question Vegas odds. And that one I was questioning. Why is he so far down the list? What do they know that I don't? And I started to dig a little further into it, and I haven't researched it fully yet, but I'm going to get to the bottom of that as to why he's down, because I really like him too, but I kind of trust Vegas odds on a lot of issues. And
you mentioned earlier no one's talking about Jim Furyk, and it might have been on my show, and you're right. I mean, I don't think you can go wrong. I don't think you can go wrong picking Furyk. The problem is he is in that first group, the A-list. The A-list is pretty big this week.
Yes.
In the A-list, you got the likes of Heinrich Stenson. I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole.
No,
which means he'll probably finish top 5. But that's
you've done very well.
Every time I like him,
this segment,
he bombs. When I don't like him, he plays well.
Yeah.
You got Rory and Sergio and Koepka and Furyk and Ryan Palmer and J.B. Holmes and Webb Simpson, former U.S. Open champion, Bill Haas, Adam Scott, Masters winner.
It is a big field.
Jason Duffner, PGA Championship winner. Luke Donald. All those guys are all on the A list.
Right.
Victor
of
course, U.S.
Dubuisson.
Open is a bigger field, so these lists are bigger.
There's one name I'm just going to throw out there, like Camilo Villegas did, or last week when Shane threw that name out. The name I'm going to give you guys is Victor Dubuisson. I like him this week.
Do you?
I do. I really do.
He's completely disappeared since he was playing off a cactus.
Yeah,
the match play last year.
I was doing player profiles, and this type of venue I think might sit well with him. And then another guy I like for the A. I'm going to go, and I'm going to give you my first A players, and I think I'm going to stick with these guys is Rory and Sergio. I'm going to stick with these two guys. I like
got Rory
Sergio
and Brooks Koepka as my 2A guys.
That's your 2A guys.
Wavering.
Good stuff.
If I change it all, I might let you talk me into Jim Furyk, but.
Well, folks, hopefully that's going to help you all and with your teams. There's a lot out there. Please do your research this week. If you're in a league like we're in, we're second to last week out, so you're going to need to finish strong. And me particularly, being in 7th place, I need to finish very strong these last 2 weeks if I'm going to think about winning this summer or the spring segment. We go into the summer segment in 3 weeks, so. It's important. Brian, I really appreciate you being on the show, giving your expert opinion on fantasy and some of the players on the tour that can help the folks out there. And really appreciate you spending some time with us.
Anytime, buddy.
Well, thank you so much. Folks, this is Jeff Diehl at Fantasy Golf TV. Give you a little information on TGD Radio and TV. They are produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for thegolfdirector.com. When visiting the Golf Director, be sure to check out our featured golf course pages where you'll find up-to-date information about golf course conditions, as well as up-to-date information on specials and much more. Need help with your next golf vacation? Hashtag JustCallDave. In fact, I was talking to him just a little while ago. He's waiting for your call. Give him a call, 844-GO-GOLF1. That's 844-464-6531. All of our TGD programming is archived for your listening and viewing pleasure on demand. To catch up on a show you have missed, click on the TGD Radio and TGD TV tabs in the menu at thegolfdirector.com. We're now available on over 1 billion devices. Can you believe that? 1 billion devices. We're on iTunes, Audio Realm, TuneIn, YouTube, Ustream, Roku, Blueberry, the Myrtle Beach Golf app, which is really neat. Check that out. My name is Jeff Diehl. I appreciate Brian Steffen for being on the show. Jeff, behind the glass, I really appreciate all you do for us, producing the show. And, there's more TGD golf news and information coming up, so please stay tuned. And U.S. Open Week is here.
Can't talk to my wife.
You catty sucker.
The girl was quite a looker. Yeah, but my practice habits shook her. Bucket of balls.